on, guys? Matt Schaeffer here again from Sound Effects with another Musaic audiophile conversion. This time it's in a Lexus GS350, and this was pretty much a full build. All the audio equipment got swapped out, replacing it with Focal Utopia Mosconi Pro amps. So I'll explain the process of exactly what we did in the trunk. So this is the layout that we went with. As you can see, it's very clean, a lot of detail without being detailed, if that makes sense. So it's a lot of work. Obviously, all these side panels here are basically two-part foamed to get this curve and this depth of how it kind of starts sloping up and then it goes straight up. So there's literally 3 layers here that are all bolted together with 1/4-20 hardware, and like I said, there's two-part foam which creates this shape that you see here. So what I mean by it's extremely complex, meaning there's a lot of work that goes into it, but the end result is it's just a very, very clean, subtle type of look. So this grill here is pretty much the focal point of the entire build, and that's every one of those little rungs there in the grill is a piece of 1/4-inch black acrylic. And this is pretty much the first card that I fully designed using the laser machine, our Trotec Speedy 360. So a lot of the shape of the grill I engineered on the computer and cut it on the laser, which made making something this production a lot easier for me. I mean, this whole grill was pretty much built in a span of about 3 hours from start to finish. And as you can see in the picture here, there's actually little brackets that I cut out also on the laser that basically holds each one of these little slots together and makes it to where everything bolts together. So it's an extremely production type piece that I wanted to utilize as a centerpiece. And here's basically some shots of what it looks like at night when there's not a ton of light bouncing in the trunk here. So you can kind of see the Illusion subwoofers lit up behind the grill and the front of the grill lit up. We also did this cool little edge lighting here. It looks kind of yellow in the camera, but it's bright white. But I had the idea of doing like a you know, kind of how we see a lot of ceilings that have crown molding and there's lights behind the crown molding. I kind of wanted to do that in a car. So if you get down far enough, you might be able to see the there's LED lights back there about maybe 3 or 4 inches underneath this panel here. So, you know, you can go in pretty far to where you're hitting the LEDs. And that just creates a nice little soft glow at night and kind of illuminates everything that you're seeing in the trunk. Obviously, like always, we have a functional design where we can still throw groceries in here, still store stuff, and you can pop this cover out here and then get to the amp rack down below. So the really cool thing about this is, again, this was also designed on the laser. So before, where I'd have to make all these pieces from scratch, router them out, I got extremely expedited by doing this on the laser. So all these pieces here were basically cut and designed on CAD, and it's really nice because, like I said, you know, I basically start by making this bottom panel, and then from there I copy that to the next piece of acrylic, laser in the F-Sport on the back of the acrylic, and then from there start building up my separate layers. So the amplifiers here, these are the new Mosconi Pro 5-30, and it's a 5-channel amp where you're basically getting about 670 watts on the 5th channel. The 5th channel is a D-class channel. 1 through 4 are a class AB. Obviously, I install a lot of Mosconi Zero amps, and these are the closest thing to that amp that I've heard yet. Absolutely amazing sound. kind of sound like tube amps. And you know, for me, because it has that 5th channel, it's extremely convenient. Before, to do this system, I would at least use 3 amps because I'd have a mono and probably 2 4 channels to run everything active. So for me, the convenience of having the 2 amps in a smaller frame is extremely convenient. So people watching, if you're inquiring about builds, you know, these are pretty much my new go-to amp. You know, I will be using these all the time, so you'll see these a ton in future builds. Like I said, so that's the floor and what is underneath this removable carpeted panel. It just goes and clicks back in, sits in there flush. And then something else, again, because, you know, functionality is always key when we build stuff. You see these 3 layers here. These layers are bolted together. This top layer, which is carpet that molds back into the factory carpet, these panels come off pretty easily, or I can pull it off with one hand. And then if you look, there's actually 3 13-pound magnets on the top of this panel. And the reason I did that is because down in here, as I'm sure you can kind of see, we have the factory tools. You know, when you get a flat tire or whatever it may be, we have that down here in the corner. And we have, of course, the first aid kit. We can still change out the light, right? So we still have access to replacing any light bulbs that might go bad. And again, we have the carpeted piece, and in this piece we have the magnets embedded into the bottom of the piece. So again, this thing literally just snaps into place. And if you notice, these actually stick up a little bit. That way it interlocks into this panel. So this panel just can't move around. It's gonna go into place, and it's literally gonna snap itself perfectly into place. And then on the other side, taking this one off, just like that one, we have access, as you see there, to the Mosconi DSP. So down there, I'm not sure if you can see it, but we have the Mosconi 8-12 aerospace, which if we ever need to access it, it's very easy to get to. Again, that's the panel just snaps into place. You hear it snap, and we're good to go. So not much more to say about this, other than obviously we have carpet here. This is leather. So these panels were actually pretty freaking hard to wrap, especially this one here. But this is real leather. I couldn't find anyone that carried the vinyl equivalent, so we had to order a full hide of leather, which obviously, working with leather, it's not a man-made product. It's obviously alpha cal. So the you know, you don't have the same luxuries as wrapping very, very complex and hard curves. So like when we did the A-pillars inside, pretty difficult to do in the leather, but you know, we were able to get it done. So again, that's the trunk there. Obviously we use the Lexus logo in the center, and then the Musaic our logo here as kind of the bottom focal point of this build. Alright, so going through the interior of the car and kind of how everything works with the factory is we obviously have our Mosconi 8-12 DSP. We have our remote controller here, so when our arm is on the armrest, the remote is literally right at your fingertips, which is very, very convenient. So to give you a look of how we kind of incorporated it, we made this panel that sits into this little cubby here, also can slide back and forth, right? So you can still get to the USBs and stuff down here in this pocket. This piece can even come completely out, and you can undo the harness right here, the plug. And so like I said, you can still get to everything down in here, and where your hand physically sits on this piece is very, very convenient, because when that's shut, your hand sits right here. So with that being said, we have preset 1, which is going to work your OEM radio. Anything that you're going to listen to on the factory radio is going to run through preset 1. So, you know, if you're listening to nav, satellite radio, again, anything through this radio, you just throw this on preset 1, which is pretty easy. You just hold down this knob until you see the preset button flash, and then you move it to preset 1, hit the button once, and you're good to go. So on preset 2, we obviously have that hooked up to our AMAS 2 Bluetooth chip. So basically the Bluetooth chip is using a higher resolution than what you're used to with Bluetooth. It's not the Bluetooth that's super compressed and sounds like crap. This is a high dollar Bluetooth chip that's able to pair with other aptX devices to transfer at a very, very high rate. So it's gonna be, you know, far greater than CD quality as far as the transfer rate. You know, it's gonna be around 24-bit 48, whereas going through Toslink, you are limited to 2496. But the downfall with 2496 is that you are limited to 2496 because that's the physical limitation of Toslink. So you're going to have to find all your media 2496 or below. With the Bluetooth chip, you can process anything that's DSD, 24192, any file format that's larger. Obviously, since you're starting out with a larger media file, you know, you're still going to get those benefits of those files because, again, there's more information for where it's basically downsampled to. And also, to kind of piggyback on that, you know, most record labels, current record labels, we're not talking about old school record labels because they didn't sample, they didn't have the microphones to sample and record at these high resolutions. So most modern record labels, they record natively at 2448. So really that's where your biggest impact and benefit is, coming over from an iPhone that plays, you know, 256 kilobytes per second from iTunes. So making that jump from 256 to 2448 and being able to play DSD files in 192 through the AMAS, getting that benefit of, you know, less floor noise on the file and things like that, where a lot of the older, you know, tracks, they've stripped out a lot of just the background analog tape noise. So you are receiving those benefits. Obviously, the other way is you can go analog in from the player directly to the processor and use the DAC of this player. But like I said, you're really limited to the voltage output, the analog output of the player. So it's not going to be as prevalent and as great of a signal as that digital signal going straight in from AMAS. So for me, the AMAS 2 is really the best way to go. It's the most convenient. You don't have to fumble around with wires. You just connect from here to here. And, you know, if you were to hear this kind of car perform with this on AMAS, I mean, you would be absolutely freaking blown away. So that's how preset 1 and preset 2 work on this. We're not using preset 3 and preset 4. You can also adjust the main volume. You can adjust the bass, so the sub volume with this, to make it go up and down. We also have our A pillars here, again wrapped in leather. Super hard to wrap these in leather because they're pretty contoured. There's no stitch line on them, so we just took a lot of steam to them and was able to hit the contour that you see here. So we have a Focal number 7 kit in the front. We have it's a 6-inch in the door. It's a mid and a tweeter in the A pillar. And again, these were fully remolded to accept these speakers here. Obviously, with most other installs that you might have seen on my YouTube channel, I like doing the pillars like this because you can use them in 2 ways. Obviously, this car has a lot of silver in the dash, which really complements the silver of the Utopia tweeter. But these speakers do come with these grills here that literally are just made to snap onto these Allens here. So if you wanted to protect them, you could throw on these 2 grill covers and have everything blend more in and not be as prevalent. So just something to kind of protect the speakers there. So in the rear of the car, we use the Focal integration line of Toyota speakers. So this is a bracket made to fit the factory bracket. So this thing just bolts into place and the factory harness plugs directly into the speaker to make it 100% factory. We sound dampen the inner and outer door skin and finish it off with a fast ring. So we use SoundSkin's light material to address the inner and outer door skin. By doing this, we're sealing up all the holes that are in the door panel and turning the door more into an enclosure. Also making sure that we're adding enough weight and damping to the door skin to make sure it doesn't rattle or resonate. Because the first time you hear a rattle in a car, you know, you're gonna isolate yourself to that side and it's gonna kill the soundstage of the car. We also address the inner door skin with black hole tile, which kind of gets installed in a checkerboard pattern. What that does is it helps with, one, the weight of the door skin, and it also helps with the back wave reflection of the mid bass. So like always guys, thanks for the love and the support and checking out the videos. If you have any questions on a build that you want to do, questions about product, questions about what I did on the install, why I did it, you can contact me anytime, multiple ways. Here is my phone number and here is my email below. And then if you want to contact me on Instagram, give me a follow. This one is my personal one, at @TheRealMattyS. And then there are two for the business. We have Sound Effects Home Car, and then we have Musaic_design. Like always, thanks a lot again. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and until the next one, I'll see you guys later.